Madam Clerk, are you ready to begin?
We're ready.
Then let's call this meeting to order, this organizational meeting of the Washoe County Board of Equalization. Please all stand for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Clerk, may I have the roll, please?
Certainly. Darren McDonald, Chair.
Present.
Eugenia Bonifant. Present. Aaron Albright.
Present.
Robert Lissner.
Here.
Savita Shukla withdrew her application, so we have Corinthia Yancey as the alternate. And we have Kobe Burnett from the DA.
Very good. Do we have any?
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Very good. Do we have any public comments?
There are none.
All right. Do you wish to administer the oath of office to our board members?
So our new board members, if you will stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Aaron Albright.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and
of the
government
United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and government
and the Constitution and government
of the State of Nevada
of the State of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and will bear true faith,
allegiance, and loyalty
allegiance, and
to
loyalty
the same.
to the same.
Any ordinance, resolution, or law
Any ordinance, resolution, or law
of any state notwithstanding,
of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
all of the duties of the office
all of the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And we do have your oaths to sign, so before you leave, if you will sign your oaths today.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the election of a vice chair. And I will accept nominations before I nominate Eugenia. Oh, hearing none others, may I have a second for a nomination for Eugenia?
Second the nomination.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or final takers? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. McDonald, just for the record, there was no public comment on that
And
item.
There is no public comment on it. I will remember to do that again. All right. Madam Clerk, do you wish to swear in the assessor's staff?
Yes. There's a list going around. If all of you have signed it, that would be great. And if those who need to be signed in or sworn in will stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will present this season of Board of Equalization is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or so affirm?
Thank you very much. That brings us to our orientation and training session, and I welcome Chris Sarman, our county assessor.
All right, good morning, Chair and members of the board. Yes, for the record, I'm Chris Sarman, Washoe County Assessor. If you didn't know, today we're celebrating the appeal deadline day. So what a day to be in here to have this actual meeting. So January 15th is the deadline for the appeals. They're still coming in. We have about 44 right now. We'll kind of maybe get into that a little bit later as well, but we have until the end of the day and a couple days thereafter. So anyways, obviously we have a few new board members this year. So we welcome you first and foremost. Welcome to our world of assessment. We certainly look forward to the dialogue with you and over the next month, the years to come, because you signed up for, I think, a couple of years, right? So to both our new and our existing board members, this is an important role. We thank you for your service. We look forward to the dialogue and the discussions with you as we move forward through the processes here. So. Before I get started, I just want to introduce some of our staff. Howard Stockton, he's our chief property appraiser. There's Howard. Jane Tung, she's the deputy assessor. And then also in the audience here is the hardworking crew of our staff of a few of them out of the 63, but the appraisers that will be presenting to you with their wealth of knowledge and skill sets. So this morning, I just want to give you a general oversight what it is our office does. Some of you being as new as you are, some of you know what we do, some of you might not know what we do. So I'm just going to walk you through that, and then Howard will take it over and kind of walk through the process that we have for appraisal. Just real quick, our office is essential in origin. Where did we come from? We were established at the time that Washoe County was established in 1861. We're also Article 10 in the Nevada Constitution, which was adopted in 1864. So the essential services, they were enacted to support the essential services. We're here today, Washoe County, because a lot of the work that we're doing, 52% of the revenue from our general fund stems from the work we're doing in our office. The stakeholders, we've got lots of different interests, obviously, with the state, the county, the municipalities. We're working through all these different agencies through our office throughout the entire year. It's when you start outlining it and looking at it, it's pretty impressive, really. And so a lot of the work we're doing affects different stakeholders and different interests. The statutory duty of our office is to discover, list, and value all property that's subject to taxation unless otherwise exempt. So you may see before you at some point in time an exemption appeal, that sort of a thing, or somebody that wishes that they should be valued. This is the law that we work under. We are in charge of putting value to everything that's taxable. Our mission in our office right now is to efficiently produce and maintain fair and equitable values that are built upon an accurate property record by an impartial, transparent, courteous staff. They're before you today. And that mission is important because we have, as people come to us with questions, concerns with their values, we're always looking at this mission. We can speak to revenue all day long, but our first priority is to be fair and equitable and listen to that taxpayer and their concern. Just some quick stats, 192,000 parcels. Across those 192,000 parcels, we're doing that discovery, listing, evaluation process. Through the discovery, we're talking about permits. We're obviously listing that information and we're putting values to those parcels. You may see in front of you an appeal that is tied directly to just the value, how it relates to market value. Maybe a new permit, maybe a reopen, something that somebody did in addition to their property. And so we'll work through that, and whatever that scenario or example might be, we're obviously going to put before you the data that you're going to need to make a good decision. We produce and maintain $95 billion in value. That's the big number, right? Everybody, that's the universal language is numbers like that. That's what we do in effect in our office. These numbers, I will say that they're from August, so they're not up to date today. But last year, we saw about a $1.7 billion increase in values due to market, another 1.8 due to new construction, new discovery, for a total of about $3.5 billion. We also have a personal property department. We may see some of those in front of you this year as well. I do know that some of the casinos at the Row appealed this year. That gets a little bit convoluted because we're talking about real and personal property. And so we've got the people that are going to work through that. Maybe you'll see it before you, maybe we won't. We're very open to talking to the taxpayer. We won't get into the taxes. We don't do taxes, we do value, but ultimately they do lead to taxes. And I do want to, this is up here for, I guess, the point being that we don't do taxes, right? So you may have appellants in front of you that don't like their taxes. That's not what we're here for. As you guys, as the board knows, we're here to talk about the valuation and the fairness and the equitability of that valuation, not taxes. I'll point out too, there's what we call the tax cap, taxes abated. A lot of times, some of these valuations that may be in front of you may not have any impact on the taxes, right? But we do want the values right. Some of the metrics that we did this year, these are really impressive to me. I mean, we're adding about 2,000 parcels a year. Again, we're doing 192,000 parcels that we're doing permits upon or valuations. We did 24,000 permits. We reviewed records to the effect of 23,000. Last year, that's a big number right there, especially for this board, or a good number, I shouldn't say a big number, but 139 appeals last year. As a percent of the overall parcel count that we have, we're doing a good job. That's what that means. We're happy with that number. Of that number, we typically see about 50% withdrawn because we've talked to the taxpayer, they understand it a little bit better. So we'll have 50% of those appeals withdrawn. Another 25% there, we're working with the taxpayer with new information, so we'll have a stipulation. You'll see stipulations in front of you this year that you can approve. And from that, the rest of it you may see in front of you, right? And so we'll present our information, they'll present their information. You guys, as with your expertise, we'll come up with a decision. So 22,000 phone calls, 800,000 website visits. They're pretty big numbers, but we're working with the public. That's what I'm telling you. Just an organizational chart of our office. We always put the public first. Again, that's just what I'm hammering here, right? We're working with the public. We recognize that. Abatements, I don't really want to get into. It's a complex situation, but again, sometimes the valuations that we're doing really have no impact on the taxes. Exemptions, all sorts of exemptions. We have exemptions, appeals as well. So that's it for me. Howard, are you ready? Thank you for your time. We'll see lots of you guys. Well, how many dates do we have this year scheduled? 6 days or 8 days? Okay.
Good morning. Howard Stockton. I'm the Chief Property Appraiser for Washoe County. A little bit about myself. I've worked in the assessor's office for close to 20 years. I have 25 years of appraisal experience. I had an appraisal business for a little while, and I also was a senior appraiser for Colliers International here in town. And that's my background, and I'm here at your service during these hearings. I typically sit up at in the corner over here, so if you have any technical questions or anything of that nature, know that I'm a resource for you to help you guide your information that you want to hear to help you guide your decisions. You got a little bit of an overview of our office and some of the numbers and stats that are applicable to our office. I'm gonna talk a little bit more focused on the ad valorem property tax system here in Nevada. We have a very unique ad valorem system in Nevada. In fact, we're the only state in the nation that has this type of system. We are not a market value based system. Our taxable values, our office calculates a taxable value, and that taxable value consists of mainly two components. It's the land value at market. So what is that land value at market value? What would you expect a vacant lot for this building or house or structure to sell for? And then we have a cost to replace. So that's the land value at market. The second portion of our valuation is the cost of replacement new for the improvements on the parcel. Okay. So how do we arrive at our cost replacement new for these improvements? We are required by law to recost the improvements using Marshall and Swift costing service. And that is an entity that provides trended construction costs throughout the nation. And so we look at whether it be a home, a commercial building, the improvements, the concrete, anything that can be considered real property will show up on this real property record. And we go to Marshall and Swift, we see what is the cost to build that in today's environment. And we get that replacement cost new, and then we apply a depreciation rate to that. And that depreciation rate is a state mandated depreciation rate. And it's not a market derived depreciation rate. And that rate is 1.5% per year, up to 50 years or 75% depreciated. So if you have a structure, let's say a house, and it's older than 50 years or older, we'll calculate that replacement cost new, and then we decrease that by 75%, and that's your improvement value. Okay? So those two, the land and the improvements, are added together to get a total taxable value. Okay? And that's, again, it's not a market value, it's a total taxable value. And that total taxable value by statute cannot exceed full cash value for a parcel. So many of these appeals are petitions brought forward are appealed based on the petitioners think that our value exceeds market value. So when we get these, I'll get to that next. So there's a little bit of a background on our valuation. What are the primary methods we use to value land? The first approach, and probably the most credible approach for this, is the sales comparison approach. And that process consists of looking to the market, looking at land sales of comparable properties, and establishing what a base value would be for that neighborhood, right? So in an ideal world, we would have plentiful land sales in a neighborhood, and we would feel very supported in any kind of base lot value that we came up with. As we all know, Washoe County is been growing for decades, and land is becoming more difficult to come by. Land sales are becoming more difficult to come by. So there are other appraisal techniques that we use to value the land. One method is allocation. And what allocation involves is looking at the total sales price. So if you're in a neighborhood and maybe a home sold for $500,000, we would look at that total sales price, and then we would allocate a portion of that sales price to the land. So our office does an allocation study every year where we're looking to see what we think those ratios are. We do have different ratio levels based on the age of the property. And this method is most commonly used in tract subdivisions, right? If South Meadows, we have 300 sales in a neighborhood, and we come up with a median sales price, and then we allocate a portion of that sales price to the land. Another method that could be used to value land is abstraction. And abstraction is when we get a sale of an improved property and we remove the contributory value of the improvements from the sales price to arrive at a land value. And this type of method is not out of the three methods up here. This is probably the least used in our office. We do start to look at this a little more on parcels that maybe the contributory value of the improvements is minimal, because that gives us a better idea. The adjustment to get to that land value is less. But those are the three methods that we use primarily to value land in Washoe County. And remember, the land by statute needs to be at market. But when the land and the improvements are added together, that's total taxable value, and that doesn't necessarily equate to market. Is there any questions on the valuation or at this point for our office? Okay. So I'll move on a little bit and give you kind of a overview of the assessment process and the appeals. We come up with this total taxable value, and one of the benefits of being in the state of Nevada is there is a tax cap. There is a 3% tax cap on primary residence and up to 8% tax cap on commercial properties. And what that tax cap means is homeowners, property owners can experience a significant increase in their value. Maybe their value goes up 10% or 20% in 1 year, which is a heck of a lot. But we have seen those kind of increases in our market throughout the years. The cap caps the taxes. It doesn't pertain to the valuation. So we put our total taxable value on based on the costing and the land at market, and the tax cap will only allow those taxes to increase 3%. So as you can imagine, in a market that has been going up drastically over many years, for the most part, we have situations where these property owners they have maybe a high total taxable value, but they're only paying a portion on their total assessment. And we call that value the tax capped value. So a lot of appeal, and this is a difficult topic to get property owners to understand. You know, this is a complex system, and our staff members actually do a really good job, and they will, however long it takes, however many questions a taxpayer has on this, we do our best to walk them through and give them examples. But a lot of times, the tax cap value is so low that in order to actually get a benefit or a reduction in their taxes, the decrease would have to be monumental, right? Somebody may come in and say, I back McCarran, and it's real noisy and it's a detriment, and you guys don't have that reflected in your valuation. And the board may say, okay, we agree with this. We're gonna issue a 10% reduction to the land, and the taxpayer walks out thinking, all right, I'm getting a 10% decrease in my taxes. It's not the case. In actuality, they may have needed a 80% decrease in their land, depending on how far they are from that initial establishment. So we try to explain that. And one thing to keep in mind, and that we tell our staff, is we're about valuation. We want our values supported, we want them accurate, and we want to be fair and equitable, as it is in our mission statement. And the taxes are kind of out of our lane, so to speak. We have all of our appraisers are licensed appraisers with the state. They take continuing education, and that's all regarding the valuation portion of our job, and not the taxes. So, as Chris mentioned, today's the appeal deadline by state law. Taxpayers have until the 15th to submit their petition to the office to be heard in front of this board. And Chris touched on it a little bit, but I'll kind of refresh. Last year, we had 100 appeals, basically. And out of those 100 appeals, 85 of them were real property, meaning homeowners, commercial businesses. They were appealing their total taxable value. 7 of them were personal property appeals. So businesses file a declaration, a personal property declaration each year, or we estimate it, and they are subject for tax on their personal property. And that's a drastically different than the real estate, right? It's a different process, some different statutes, but we had about 7 of those last year. And then we had 8 exemptions where people appealed their exemptions. As of this morning, hot off the press, we have 45 appeals logged so far. Out of those, 40 are real property, homes, commercial buildings, could be a vacant lot, stuff of that nature. Out of that 40, 11 are the Sparks Galleria, so that will likely be one hearing. So we're kind of sitting at 29, 30 appeals right now, which is we still have until the end of the day and a couple days after to get ones that were postmarked and sent. But so far, it looks like it's a pretty typical year. And that percentage, if you think about, like Chris kind of touched on this, 192 or 193,000 parcels that all could potentially be appealed. That would be our worst nightmare. But we, last year 100, it's looking like we're trending in that kind of 100 range, maybe a little more this year. So that's a very small percentage that we get.
How many of those are repeat appeals?
So Chris brings up he asked, how many of those are repeat appeals? And for new board members, none of this will be repeat. They'll all be new for you. But there are properties that perpetually appeal, right? So there's some businesses, big box businesses, stuff like that, they hire tax consultants and a lot of times they don't even know our value initially. They're just getting their right reserved to come in, and that's fine. We have no issue with that. It's their right to appeal, but quite a few of the 100 appeals, a lot of the board members that have been on the board for a year or two will recognize them and will probably have a lot of wisdom and guidance for the new board members to give when those hearings are being heard. So our office approach, so we get these appeals. What do we do? How does it end up to you? What's our process? Our approach is when we get these appeals, the first thing that we instruct our staff to do is to reach out to the petitioner. We review their packet, we reach out, and we open a dialogue with them and try to hear what their issues may be and whether there's a valid reason for us to think, one, we're over market, or two, maybe that they're not being assessed equitably with other properties of similar nature. Those are the main two things that we're looking for when we are looking at these appeals. So we reach out and we open that dialogue. We will review the information they have, and if it's a commercial building, we may request additional information, rent rolls, if they have appraisals or a broker's opinion of value or something, we'll request that because we will begin to start to look at our analysis and see, well, are we exceeding market? And for us to know if we're exceeding market, our appraisers have to try to establish what they think market value is for that parcel. So we open this dialogue, we will request information, and then based on what we're seeing, we have a couple options. One option is that we agree with the petitioner. Maybe there's something that we were unaware of. Maybe there's a big development cost that's sitting out there that we didn't recognize, or maybe there's another issue that we didn't consider. We can make a recommendation to lower that value, and that process is and if the taxpayer agrees with that, that's a stipulation, right? And you'll see a lot of stipulations before you, and it's just one sheet. It's not an appeal packet. It's just one sheet, and it'll say, this is what the value was. This is what we're proposing, and it's signed by us and the taxpayer. We're in agreement, and everybody likes stipulations. Taxpayers like it. We like it. The board likes it. The clerk's office likes it. It's a good, easy process, and we encourage our staff to work with taxpayers and attempt to reach an agreement, if we can. Another thing that perhaps is even better than a stipulation, is a withdrawal. Okay? A lot of times, the taxpayer maybe doesn't understand the process, doesn't know their tax cap. Maybe we considered that detriment and we have an adjustment on the property record and they were unaware of it. So, and we get withdrawals also. So that's where they appeal. We have some conversations and they understand their valuation and they withdraw their appeal. And the final kind of scenario is we've received the information, we've had the discussions, we've done an analysis of what we think market value is, and we still can't agree on a value. And those are the hearings that you guys, that's where this board, as a non-biased citizen board, comes in and listens to the facts and determines what they believe is to be a reasonable value for this parcel. Just last year, just to kind of give you an idea, of those 100 appeals we received, this is kind of funny because it's almost too perfect. 33%, or 1/3, were withdrawn. Okay, they filed appeal. We had discussion. We gave them information. They withdrawn. 35 were stipulated to. Okay, so out of those 100, 33 withdrew, 35 stipulated. And that's where we're in an agreement with the value, and an adjustment was made to their value, and we're in agreement with it. 31 were brought to the board for the board to make a decision on whether we valued it correctly. So that, and I would venture to say that that's probably probably pretty similar each year. It's about 1/3 will withdraw, we could usually come to agreement in about 1/3, and there's usually about 1/3 where we can't reach an agreement. Just a few things about the appeal and the appeal process. One thing that I try to stress to the staff is we're appraisers. And an appraisal, it's an opinion. It's an opinion of value. And it's not a fact. It's not a scientific equation. It's an opinion. And that opinion is based on market data, right? We want to have support, market support for our opinions. And we want our appraisers are licensed and professional and do continuing education. So we want to be credible in our appraisals and our valuation conclusions through market support and our training. And all that being said, there's disagreements. And our opinion can be wrong. And, you know, there's no, I stress to our staff, don't take it personally, okay? If you come up and the board feels like, hey, we need an adjustment on this parcel, that's fine. All we can do is present to you the information we used, our analysis, how we arrived at our value, and that's what we do. So, we all appreciate this board, what you guys do, and I just want you to know if we come up and you feel like an adjustment is needed or warranted and you decide to do it, we don't take it personally. We move on from there to the next one. So, thank you. Any questions? Okay, sure. Chris brought up a good point here. We submit with these petitions that are being brought before the board that are going to be heard, we submitted an appeal packet to the board. And that packet is a summary of the record that is currently established, how we got to that value, and it also includes the analysis whether we exceed market value or not. Okay, so inside that packet, you'll find, like I said, an appraisal record. What is their appraisal record? What is their value? What is their land value? What adjustments were made? What comparable sales are we using to try to understand if we think we're exceeding market value or not? On an income property, we will have an income approach to value. And the income approach is where we are looking at rents and applying a market rent and a market vacancy and expenses to arrive at a net operating income and then the net operating income we divide by a cap rate, and that arrives at a total taxable value. So on commercial properties, you can expect to see our income approach in there. Likely have a market rent survey for the rents. How do we establish the rent? We may have a cap rate chart of sales in the area where, with a range of the cap rates that were used, we'll have the sales comparison approach. So on all these packets, all these appeals that are going to be heard and not stipulated to, you will receive a packet from us that summarizes the record and our taxable value, and also our analysis of whether we exceed market or not. Is that good? So, look forward to working with you all, and if you have any questions now or later, you pick up the phone, give us a call. If you're looking at a packet and something doesn't make sense or you need some clarification on something, let us know. Send us an email. We're here at the service of the board and the public. So with that, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess that's it from us. Thank you for your time. And I didn't mean to leave out our new DA over there. Welcome aboard. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any questions for the assessors? No, thank you very much.
All right.
Madam Clerk, would you like to proceed with your presentation and the introduction of your staff?
Certainly. So welcome new board members. This is probably one of the funner, that's not even a word, more fun boards because it's just so different than a lot of the things that the county presents in a board meeting. So to start things off, I am Jan Galasini, your Washoe County Clerk. Next to me is Yvonne. She is the Board Records and Minutes Manager. And I have, my tiny but mighty team of 3 deputies and hopefully a 4th by the end of the BOE season. So I have Lizzie, Brooke, and Jessica. And they put together your packet that you have in front of you. This is for when you can't sleep next week. You'll pull this out and it'll put you right to sleep. So first off, we have the member roster. So go over your information, and if there's anything that needs to change or be updated, if you would let Yvonne know. We do have one board member who withdrew this year, which allowed Corinthia to come on as our alternate. So it has your term expiration dates. And so 3 of you will need to apply for next year's season again. And then Vice Chair Bonifant will go through next year. And we have Aaron until the end of 28. So please let Yvonne know if there are any changes that need to be made to that. Next in your packet is the February calendar. So we have reserved all of these dates that are listed on the calendar. We did have a request not to hear items on the 19th, so we've taken that off of the calendar. So if you are unavailable any of those dates, if you would let Yvonne know as soon as you can so that we can work with the assessor's office when they're putting together agendas and get things scheduled correctly. And then we do have, the next page is the April calendar. We have reserved Friday, April 3rd to get final approval on the minutes. And we do that because any petitions that are challenged and go to the state level, we have to get all of that information onto the state in a timely manner. So, and on the calendar, the NRS says that all the hearings must be heard in the month of February. Well, Saturday, the 28th, is not a day that we're going to meet, so the final hearings would be on the 26th or 27th. Okay. And then the next item in your packet is our tasks chart. And so if you wonder who does what and why, this tells you, is it a clerk job or is it an assessor job, and what gives that authority or restriction to make sure things are done. There again, if you need something to put you to sleep, the NRS will do that in a heartbeat. So just to clarify a little bit, the assessor's office, as Howard and Chris stated, they receive the petitions, they schedule the hearings, and based on the property location and type, they prepare the agendas, and then they present their evidence at the hearings. On the clerk's side, we are the independent record keeper. We attend all the hearings, we schedule alternates, we arrange for you guys to get paid after the end of the season. We swear in witnesses and appraisers. We mark any evidence that comes in after the fact and distribute that to the board as it comes in to help you make the right decision. We record all hearings, and speaking of that, I neglected to mention Jonathan in the back. He's my tech guy, but then back behind this wall, first time ever, these meetings will be televised. So Sosu is behind the wall back here. And let's see, so we record all the hearings. As Howard stated, if somebody doesn't like the decision made by the board, they have the opportunity to appeal to the state. So my office provides the state appeal form so that they can continue on the process with that. Let's see. So we keep the permanent record, we send it on to the state when necessary, and preserve it forever and ever. So a little task that I have for you. There is a County Board of Equalization website. And so it's noted in your book. If you would just cruise through there, there's some extra information, some of the guidelines, just different things. And if you see anything that's kind of clunky, or you might have a suggestion on how it could be better interpreted, if you would let us know, we can fix that. Let's see. And the state puts out these guidelines every year. And that's your next big packet. So the state guidelines pretty much are the same year over year unless the legislature has changed something in it. And so this is your Bible as far as, if you have a question on the process, go to your guideline for 26. So throughout the years, we have had recommendations on how to make it easier once the hearings are presented. The assessor's office has done their side, the petitioner has done their side, and the board deliberates. We've come up with our list of motions. You will each have a set of these in a little book. And it's all tabulated so that if it's real property, you flip to that one. If it's personal property, you flip to that one. If it's approval or stipulated or whatever, you'll each have your own book when the hearings happen. So we try to make that as easy as we can for you. Let's see. And then, let's see. So the suggested motions. And then the last item is just the life of the petition. It's kind of a fun little thing to summarize what the assessor's office said that they do and what we say we do. And if you remember the little guy that used to jump on the Capitol steps, it's kind of, the life of a petition. Yeah. Anyway, I'm telling my age. And let's see, additional information. Jonathan has the laptops for those of you who requested laptops. We won't be making packets for everybody because the files are too big. And so you'll get the information about 5 days before the hearing so that you have time to do the research on what the properties are and ask the assessors if you have any questions or need clarification. Let's see, what else? So if you need a laptop, if you would see Jonathan after the meeting, he'll get you set up. And then if you would just go to the CBOE website and just review that. And if you want to, you new members, if you want to see an actual packet that has been presented to the board, you can stop by our office and we can show you that so you can kind of see the workflow before you actually have to touch it. So if you go to the website, there is a place for member bios. We have some of you and we don't have some of you. So if you would like your bio information on the website, if you would get a hold of Yvonne and we can change those, update them, add to them, whatever you'd like. So anything that is not on the agenda that is received during the hearing will be distributed to the board and then be placed on the final record when the hearing is over. Then the fun part, we get snacks. So we'll have a coffee maker and, hot water if you want tea or whatever. And, typically nuts, cookies, whatever. So if you have any dietary restrictions, if you would let me know, then we'll be able to pick out fun snacks. And the last thing, on your microphone, there's a little red button. It doesn't look like a little red button even when it's red. So you just have to push it really hard if you want to speak. So when you're making your motion, push that red button and then it makes your microphone live. Okay. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And we'll proceed to our attorney and for a presentation on open meeting law and how not to reply to all.
Good morning, members of the board. Kobe Burnett, Deputy District Attorney. I will be working with you guys during this term. The only other person that will be here occasionally will be Deputy District Attorney Herb Kaplan, who I know you guys have had in the past. That'll be if any conflict arises for me, which might happen toward the end of February, but I don't know yet, so we're still trying to work that out. I will start. I'll try to make this as quote unquote fun as possible, but I can't promise anything. So I want to say that I know my predecessors before me have just relied on saying just their biggest tip is just stick to the agenda. I can emphasize that as well. We want to make sure that you guys are just focused on what's in front of you, what's on the agenda, and we're talking about that and that only. I know that there was a mention just now about microphones. I'm not sure, they're not hot mics, are they? The button has to be on? It can go either way. Okay, so in the event that it is a hot mic, which let's pretend that it always is, let's be careful about what we're talking about or side conversations that we're having. In general, because the Board of Equalization is an administrative body, you're serving a quasi-judicial function, and as such, you are under the guide of the open meeting law. So NRS 241 is what governs the open meeting law in general. You are a public body, and so it's the intent of that open meeting law that you guys are deliberating and the board actions are conducted openly in front of the public. That, in turn with, let's see. This goes over again that you're a public body. This includes any board, commission, or subcommittee. And then this just describes what a meeting is, subsection 4. It's a gathering of members at which a quorum is present to deliberate toward a decision or take action on any matter over which you have supervision or control. A quorum is just a simple majority. We don't have to worry about that bottom part right there. We just focus on it's a simple majority of the membership here. Non-voting members are not counted. And we do have specific exceptions, but if those ever did arise, I would bring them up at that time. Methods of holding meetings. So there has been a legislative change recently, or I should say more of a regulatory change. Usually what we used to do is that during a meeting, whether it was in person or hybrid, we would read off Zoom instructions at the start of that meeting. That is no longer a requirement. We still can. I don't have a problem doing that. I don't know if we've done it at these meetings in the past, but it is no longer required. The only time you need to read Zoom instructions is if the meeting is remote only. And then special other considerations, this goes along with that. If this is transmitted over Zoom as well, these just provide for virtual meeting instructions and how the public is able to access those virtual meetings. And this is one of the biggest considerations that we have as a public body is be careful when communicating over email. And that really comes down to please don't reply all to emails. I know that in the past, we've had issues with that in the past, not with this board, but I'm just saying in the past we've had issues with that. And so we want to make sure that if communication is happening over email, it is happening in that confined space. A walking quorum is another thing that we need to be wary of. That is just where members of the body are present together. And the general gist of it is just we do not need to deliberate or talk about what happens at the Board of Equalization if we are not here in the meeting in front of the public. That is an open meeting violation. And these series of gatherings that happens with members of the public body that could constitute a quorum, so that simple majority, that is a walking quorum. We have an exception for no deliberation or action. This is when a social event or a gathering has happened and everyone here on the board is together at that gathering. That in and of itself is not necessarily a quorum and not a walking quorum as long as we do not deliberate on matters that have been before the board or could be coming before the board. Same goes with attorney-client communications. If we're communicating with one another or you're communicating with Herb over email, that generally is not considered a meeting. That email communication, we can always make sure to label it attorney-client communication as well, so we never have a question on whether or not it is. But again, that email communication is not a meeting and would not be a violation. But again, don't hit reply all, please. The notice. So the notice itself for the Board of Equalization is drafted by the staff. The assessor's office and the clerk's office handle that agenda creation and the posting requirements, but that content is reviewed. It's posted at least 3 working days prior to the meeting by 9 a.m. And it's posted usually at the principal office of that public body or building at which the meeting's to be held. So usually here at the commission chambers and on the websites. We're at an interesting point too, because since we have some state oversight as well, it can be posted on the state website too. So there's some intertwine there. We usually try to list on the agenda. You'll notice that items are designated as non-action or for possible action. Those that are labeled as for possible action are the ones that we're actually going to be deliberating on or taking some sort of action on. And then that action can come down to a decision, a commitment, or a promise, an affirmative vote. And again, if during a meeting we have a question on what we can or cannot do during that action item, feel free to ask me or Herb, whoever's here. And then again, that non-action item is just informational, not for deliberation purposes. I'm going to skip over this one. This one's not really applicable to us here. And then public comment periods. I'm not sure in the past, if anyone wants to enlighten me, they can. In the past of what we've done with Board of Equalization as far as public comment goes, I don't know if public comment has been held at the start and the end of the meetings, or if public comment is usually held at the end of each item.
Historically, we do public comment beginning and end of the session, and then before a motion is voted on at each action item.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that works. So again, because we have so many speakers, especially at the Board of Equalization, it's just important to know that we're not restricting a speaker's viewpoint on any action item. We're not doing anything to disrupt. That goes to the speaker as well, that they're not doing anything to disrupt the conduct of the meeting and the public body as well. This just goes into open meeting law violations that the Attorney General's office may bring in the event an open meeting law violation happens. And anyone can bring an open meeting law violation against the board. And so in the event that that ever happens, the public body would just need to acknowledge that finding in the event we go through that Attorney General process on the next agenda. You are able to take corrective action if an open meeting law violation occurs within 30 days of said violation. And if that corrective action is taken, the Attorney General's office has the discretion whether or not they want to prosecute it. So in the event a violation occurs, the action taken will then be void under NRS 241.036. Those violations can result in fines. These are just all the scary things that come along with these sorts of violations. So that's why we're trying our best to not violate the open meeting law. This again just lets us know that it's NRS Chapter 241. There are also great resources if anyone is interested in going to look. The Attorney General's office does have a whole practice manual. They have a checklist, and they have their old opinions as well relating to the open meeting law. That might only be interesting for me, but it might be something that you guys want to look at too. We also have the Code of Ethical Standards, which is similar rules that are just governing your conduct as a public body and members of that public body. I will say too, just as a quick aside, I know Yvonne wanted me to mention that she has 3 copies of Nevada's Acknowledgement of Ethical Standards for public officers forms, something that we're required to sign. So for the 3 new members on the board today, will you just make sure to please meet with Yvonne after so we can get your signature on those forms. So I want to go, we could go through this a little bit more, but I want to go a little more on the open meeting law. Really just boils down to sticking to the agenda, giving proper notice, and then talking about what is on that agenda. We want here, the purpose of the open meeting law here is really to provide appellants with an opportunity to have their decisions heard. If you guys have any questions or concerns during the deliberation process or during a meeting, please just make sure to put those concerns on the record. It's better that we have everything contained on the record rather than leaving and going to talk about, oh, well, that one was kind of a hard one right there. If you ever do have some sort of deliberation concern, just make sure you note it on the record. And again, that goes along with if there has been a tough decision and you want to say it, just make sure we say it now rather than after the meeting's been adjourned. Please refrain from discussing the hearings or decisions outside the meetings. I've mentioned that. If anyone here on the board discovers that they know someone that's involved in an appeal, please just let myself or Herb know ahead of time so we can advise you on how to disclose that properly on the record at the meeting. There is a high bar for recusal in these types of situations, so it's likely that you guys would just need to disclose that conflict and it's end of story right there. It's best to just let us know that information prior to the hearing so we can advise moving forward. And yeah, I'm just here to help you guys follow the rules. I want us all to, have a good time, and this is an important board and it's a fun board. So no gifts or services can be received by members of this board that could be looked at as improperly influencing you or your decisions in this process. Please don't try to use the position to get certain privileges. And then no negotiation can occur between a government agency and employees or officers' business, and no payment. And that might be my last slide, actually. So if you guys have any questions about that, please just let me know. And if during any item you have a question, again, reach out. And if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to email us, myself or Herb, individually, and we'll be happy to answer those questions too.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our next item for the 2026 hearings. Do we have any rules that we need to adopt? Usually the first one is whether or not we're going to allow people to remote access in and do a virtual attendance of our meeting, and whether we will do virtual attendance as well. We make this decision every year. Historically, we've tried a couple different approaches during COVID. We found that hybrid and virtual approaches largely did not flow very well because many petitioners bring in their paperwork at their hearing instead of providing it in advance. And that didn't work very well. So we have previously decided just only to have live in-person meetings and not offer a virtual option. So that's our history with that. And I would take a motion for discussion.
I agree with continuing that. Well, I don't know if I'm on.
You're on.
Looks like I'm on. I agree with continuing that. It was just very disruptive having, especially petitioners, appear virtually. So it would be okay to continue with in person.
So I'll take that as a motion to carry that on. Is there a second on that rule? Okay. I think all the mics today are live, but they usually are. Is that right, Jonathan? They're usually all hot all the time? Yeah, so we won't have the button to worry about generating hearing. You said you would second. Any discussion on that item that people would like to discuss? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other rules that we wish to discuss? Hearing. We already have, last year we implemented a time limit. I think it was 20 minutes or so.
Yes.
That just carries forward. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
So we can confirm that or change it if
Let's
we
confirm
need
it.
to. Experience tells us that 20 minutes is enough to get somebody their point across.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it goes on too long with a 10-minute rebuttal.
Yes. So that's our historical rule. And our experience has been that, yes, 20 minutes is usually sufficient because people who can't do it in 20 minutes can't do it in an hour either. So we would take a motion to reiterate that rule or confirm it.
Motion to continue a 20-minute limit for petitioners and the assessor staff? Or
The assessor is also limited the same way. Yeah. With a 10-minute rebuttal.
with a 10-minute rebuttal?
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion on the rule? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any other rules people wish to bring forward?
I have a few things
Madam
to
Clerk, please.
clarify. So the calendaring, like I said before, the last hearing that we have reserved in this room is the 27th. On that day, we will hear the RCR increases and the continuances. depending on how hard the assessor's office works to get as few petitions that make it to a hearing, will determine how busy your days are. Let's see, we went over the appellant time limits, and we will include on the agendas, like we did last year, that they do have a 20-minute limit, so it's not a surprise to them. And then there's been some discussion in the news about postmarks from Sacramento. And so any petitions that are late in the process, they would go to the DA's office for final decision whether they can be heard or not. So that's all I have.
Does anyone immediately know that if they have a problem attending the February 27th meeting? Looks good. All right, we should be good for continuances then.
Okay, are there any other days that we know that we won't have a quorum? If three of you can show up, then we'll have a quorum. So just for scheduling purposes, the earlier you can get your restricted calendars to Yvonne, the better off we are working with the assessor's office on the calendaring.
All right. So, try to get everything in the next week. Look at your calendars and see which ones will be. We very likely will not meet all of these sessions, but we will probably meet on some of them. So if we can kick one out early, that's a win. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, our next item is board member comments. I want to welcome our 3 new board members. And this is a fun board from the standpoint of it's somewhat technical, but usually we're dealing with things that are, they're personal to the petitioner. We have the ability to sort of look and see it in an objective way. And so we just try to continue to be that objective point of view. And it tends to be a low impact board. So I hope you all enjoy your time. And if you have questions, certainly Ms. Bonifant and I have been on this board for better than 5 years. So we have seen a couple of fun things. So we're happy to offer some questions. And Mr. Sarman has always offered continuously, although I rarely take him up on it, to spend time at lunch and explain any kind of quirk that you see working. So feel free to communicate as you will. And I looking forward to working with all of you again. So welcome this new season. Any other board comments? Any public comment?
There is none.
Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you at the next hearing. We're adjourned.